See, many people don't know this, but it was actually the fate of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that influenced him in the civil rights movement. His actual title is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He actually earned a doctorate in systematic theology from Boston University. Here are a few favorite quotes from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Love is a force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. There's also another famous person from history that says to love your enemies. In Matthew 5:44, Jesus says to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. You refuse to do anything that would defeat an individual because you have agape in your soul. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. embodied the Christian message. Now here are a few verses of scripture that he used throughout his famous speeches. In his I Have a Dream speech, he says, Amos 5:24, but let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream. Isaiah 44:5, every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough places plain. He uses these phrases from scripture to emphasize that this dream that he had was not a dream of his own, but it was a dream that God put inside of his heart. In his last speech, Dr. Martin Luther King referenced himself as a type of Moses who's been to the mountaintop, but Moses was not able to enter the promised land himself. He says, I don't know what will happen now. We got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter to me now because I've been to the mountaintop and I don't mind. Like anybody, I want to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. And I may not get there with you. But I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. And I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. My eyes have seen the coming of the glory of the Lord. This was the last message that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave on April 3rd, 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. This was the day before he was assassinated on April 4th, 1968. And through us and through the scriptures, the dream that God put in his heart continues.